Now, the Three Martini Lunch with Greg Corombos and Jim Garrity.
And welcome, everyone, to the Monday edition of the Three Martini Lunch, along with Jim Garrity of National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. We have good, bad, and crazy martinis for conservatives today, and all of it is brought to you by Dollar Shave Club. Stop spending a fortune on gimmicky shave tech you don't need. Make the smarter choice by joining Dollar Shave Club. And by doing so, you get your first month for only $5 with free shipping. But you got to go to dollarshaveclub.com/martini. More on that in just a moment. And Jim, let's start with our good martini. We always love good news from the Middle East since it happens so rarely. And it's pretty hard to call this anything other than really good news. Here's CNN's Linda Kincaid.
A victory against ISIS has been declared in the Iraqi city of Mosul. The Iraqi Prime Minister arrived in the northern city to make the announcement that Mosul has been liberated from ISIS. Now, according to his office, Haider al-Abadi congratulated the soldiers and the Iraqi people, calling this a great victory. It comes nearly 3 years after the leader of ISIS, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, declared the ISIS caliphate.
So Haider al-Abadi, the prime minister of Iraq, is making the victory tour up there, saying, yeah, there's a couple little pockets in a few houses left in Mosul, but this is basically over, and this pretty much ends the caliphate, or the alleged caliphate, in Iraq. There are still some ISIS elements in smaller towns that are holding out, and they're probably going to be resistant to being rooted out, but ultimately the problem in Iraq is pretty much over. You talk about this in the Morning Jolt today, Jim, and you also mention over in Syria, quote, U.S.-backed Syrian Democratic forces pushing into Raqqa on two fronts are now less than 3 miles apart from each other, according to a U.S. defense official directly familiar with the status of the fight. Nonetheless, the U.S.-led coalition has begun planning for an internal security force of local recruits that could hold Raqqa once military operations are over. So, Jim, the noose is getting tighter and tighter and tighter. The caliphate is shattering into pieces. It's a lot to like here.
There is, and it seems a little bit undercovered in the news media environment. I realize it is worth noting that there's both overt and covert U.S. assistance to the forces that are fighting ISIS. We don't talk about the level of support in a great deal of detail until after those sorts of missions are over, but it's pretty clear that the U.S., particularly in Syria, is assisting the Free Syrian Army. And you'd think this would be a really big deal. It was not that long ago. The perception was accurately that ISIS was on the march in both Iraq and Syria. I think what's really striking is, look, when most Americans really became aware of ISIS is when they confronted the Iraqi army, and the Iraqi army just collapsed. We remember hearing the tales about them abandoning their vehicles, abandoning their weapons. Just the Iraqi army completely fell down flat on its face in a really major test of its mettle. Well, that was about 2-3 years ago. The Iraqi army has pulled itself together and is now has retaken Mosul. And wonderful news to see that we're advancing on Raqqa in two fronts. Now, not done there yet. That is their, kind of the capital of the caliphate as they define it. And it's going to be probably a bloody fight to completely liberate that city. But once we do that, ISIS doesn't really control any cities anymore. And this was a core part of their identity. They were not merely just some jihadist Islamist group. They were the Islamic State. They were demonstrating that they were the one true caliphate because they controlled territory. And that for a good long while, the government of Syria, the government of Iraq, and no allied power in the region was able to dislodge them. Well, bit by bit, week by week, month by month, battle by battle, we have done that. I don't know about you, Greg. Does it feel like we're being set up for the narrative of the Trump administration has no plan to win the peace in Iraq and Syria, without getting to the point that, hey, the administration's policies, building upon the steps the Obama administration has taken, are working. And ISIS, which looked like it was going to be this serious threat for a long, long time, is at least being forced to give up its territory. Now, there's still going to be yahoos who self-identify with ISIS, pledge loyalty to al-Baghdadi, and probably continue to stir up terror attacks against the West for a long time. But kicking them out of major cities in the Middle East sounds as something worth celebrating, worth acknowledging. And at least worthy of some attention, even in a very busy news cycle.
Absolutely. It deserves a ton of attention because of the expectations. The Obama administration was saying that this is going to take a very long time to accomplish militarily, and then, of course, all the things that would come after military action. And, of course, we still have to see what that's going to look like. But this has happened a lot faster than I think a lot of people expected. Maybe the Obama administration was just lowballing expectations in case their actual projections didn't go correctly. Or maybe a lot's changed in how we're supporting some of these troops over there and what type of direction, what type of support, both in terms of personnel and in terms of equipment that we're giving. Obviously, ISIS is still pretty strong in Libya. You've got other pockets of them in different parts of the world, but this was home base, and right now they're getting crushed at home. Great road win by the U.S., and I guess it's really a home game for the Iraqis and the Syrians, too, who are kicking their tails at this point. Jim, let's move to the bad Martini, and let's go to the pages of the Hill newspaper. The Boy Scouts about to lose a merit badge, I think. Here's what the Hill reports. More than half of the memos that former FBI Director James Comey wrote as personal recollections of his conversations with President Trump about the Russia investigation have been determined to contain classified information, according to interviews with officials familiar with the documents. This revelation raises the possibility that Comey broke his own agency's rules and ignored the same security protocol that he publicly criticized Hillary Clinton for in the waning days of the 2016 presidential election. Comey testified last month he considered the memos to be personal documents and that he shared at least one of them with a friend. He asked that friend, a lawyer at Columbia University, to leak information from one memo to the news media in hopes of increasing pressure to get a special prosecutor named in the Russia case after Comey was fired as FBI director. So, Jim, turns out that Jim Comey may have flouted classified information rules here. That seems to be the case. So that's bad news. You don't want your FBI director doing that. Also, it's giving ammunition to the left that, hey, if Jim Comey can't figure out the rules, why do you blame Hillary Clinton for doing that?
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that angle, Greg. My suspicion was the entire conversation about the Comey memos, kind of, I, among others, who are the people who would say, almost without thinking, well, presuming there's no classified information in those memos. And I guess we couldn't presume that now, could we? And it goes from, man, boy, that James Comey, he is a smooth operator, man. You do not want to get into a bureaucratic fight with that guy. He's going to keep detailed memos. He's going to keep them himself. He does the next best thing to a recording. He's not recording the conversations, but he's going to be able to whip out those detailed notes, and all of a sudden, there you are. You're lying about what was going on in that conversation. Now, maybe not. I remember saying at the time, when there was this back and forth about what was in the memos and that initial report that was in the New York Times, I was like, I'd really like to see the memos. I assume they're being reported accurately, but the New York Times record lately, that's not necessarily something you could take to the bank. And it seemed fairly I remember having a great deal of irritation with Comey himself, saying that, look, if you're going to have this report in the New York Times, at the very least you come out and issue a statement saying, yes, the content of these memos are being reported accurately, or no, the content of these memos are not being reported accurately. Now we know that Comey gave the information to his friend for his friend to call up the New York Times. But if you have classified information in those memos, all of a sudden this looks very different. And all of a sudden, James Comey, you're right, doesn't look like such a Boy Scout anymore. And all of a sudden he looks like he's, maybe nobody in Washington is handling classified information correctly. So very much shakes the public faith in him. It seems like the Trump administration has a fair gripe here. And, we'll see whether this is, super duper top secret stuff or something like that. But it certainly makes Comey look a little less responsible and maybe a little bit more cynical in his taking of notes and things like that, and his accusations of others for not handling classified information correctly.
Wow. So everybody's got a little egg on their face here.
Yeah.
Huh?
I mean, look, this, some might say that he was still on safe ground here. The FBI will probably be reviewing those memos, but if nothing else, he's in for a close shave. Speaking of close shaves, Greg, Dollar Shave Club is the smarter choice because if you use Dollar Shave Club, you will get a great shave at a great price, conveniently delivered right to your door. They call it the no-brainer choice. You no longer have to schlep to the store. Yes, schlep. To buy a cheap disposable razor that gives you a cheap shave. No longer do you have to spend a fortune on razors with gimmicky shaving tech that you really don't need.
Is schlepping ever fun? You never hear schlepping used in a positive connotation. It's always an annoyance.
Greg, you want to go for a schlep? No. No one wants to schlep to the store.
You probably heard me say before, I am a Dollar Shave Club customer, and I'm proud to say so. I've been using it for several months, even before they became an advertiser here for the 3 Martini lunch, and the product's just great. It's such a simple process. You get a new sleeve of blades every month, a blade for each week, and they just keep coming. They get the great executive handle and all these other great features that we'll talk about here in just a second. But the blades are high quality. I mean, you're supposed to switch them out every week. That's the way you pay for it. It's $1 a blade per week, so $4 a month. Can't beat that deal. And this morning, as the work week is starting for a new week, I'm looking at my razor and going, I probably should change it. I'm not even sure if I changed it last week, but it's still doing a good job, so I'll just keep using it. So you can stockpile. I'm not sure that's what they want you to do, but as long as they keep coming, it's just a fantastic product. So you can also use the Dr. Carver shave butter, which allows the blade to glide ever so gently and gives you such a smooth shave. Plus, the Dr. Carver shave butter is transparent, better than Jim Comey, for a more precise shave and helps prevent ingrown hairs and fight nasty razor bumps. Now listeners to 3 Martini Lunch can make the smarter choice by joining Dollar Shave Club. For a limited time, new members get their first month of the Executive Razor with a tube of their Dr. Carver shave butter for only $5 with free shipping. After that, razors are just a few bucks a month. That's a $15 value for only $5. In your first month box, you get an awesome weighty handle, a full cassette of 4 cartridges, and a tube of their shave butter. After your first month, replacement cartridges ship automatically at their regular price. There are no hidden fees, none, no commitments. Cancel anytime you like. And you can only get this offer exclusively at dollarshaveclub.com/martini. One more time, dollarshaveclub.com/martini. On to the crazy martini now, Jim. And while we certainly put Jim Comey on the hot seat for his handling of different aspects of alleged conversations that happened regarding Trump and the Russians and Trump's staff and so forth, well, the other side's not exactly scot-free today either. So, new story out in the New York Times about how Paul Manafort, Donald Trump Jr., and Jared Kushner met with a person who alleged that they had some good dirt on Hillary and the DNC and Russia. And here's what the New York Times now reports in terms of Donald Trump Jr. But on Sunday, presented with the Times finding, Donald Trump Jr. offered a new account. In a statement, he said he had met with the Russian lawyer at the request of an acquaintance from the 2013 Miss Universe pageant, which his father took to Moscow. After pleasantries were exchanged, he said, the woman stated that she had information that individuals connected to Russia were funding the Democratic National Committee and supporting Mrs. Clinton. Her statements were vague, ambiguous, and made no sense. No details or supporting information was provided or even offered. It quickly became clear that she had no meaningful information. He said she then turned the conversation to adoption of Russian children and the Magnitsky Act, an American law that blacklists suspected Russian human rights abusers. The 2012 law so enraged President Vladimir Putin of Russia that he halted American adoptions of Russian children. It became clear to me that this was the true agenda all along and that the claims of potentially helpful information were a pretext for the meeting. So, Jim, as you point out in the Jolt, apparently it doesn't take much to get a meeting with the very top levels of the Trump campaign last year, even though this person seemed to be full of it when they were talking about allegations of Hillary Clinton and the Democrats and the Russians.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is unsurprisingly, the usual suspects are pointing to this meeting and going, aha! Here we go. Finally, this is it. Smoking gun evidence of collusion. Except there's no actual meaningful dirt being communicated here. Right. And you know, I think we can, if an admission against interest is considered more truthful, as courts of law in some court cases and judges have ruled, this does seem like an accurate accounting of events from Donald Trump Jr. because it makes him look like an idiot. And we should salute him for his honesty in this because, wait, how do you think that discussion went down afterwards with Jared Kushner and Paul Manafort? Manafort at that point is still the Trump campaign manager.
Yes.
Paul, I got a really important meeting with you. This woman says she's got really good dirt on Hillary Clinton. Who is she? I don't know. I've never met her. I have no idea who she is. We just have a mutual friend through the Miss Universe context. Ah, well, you know, that's where all the good political dirt comes from. I mean, you realize, Greg, we could have gotten exclusive interviews with Manafort or Kushner or Donald Trump Jr. just by saying that we had magic beans that were going to help Trump win the election. So apparently that's all it took to get into meetings with the highest level people or something like that. You know, again, I think the people are saying, aha, this is collusion, or either this is all totally, completely lies and there really was valuable information communicated through those that meeting, or the account from Donald Trump Jr. is truthful, and that they're just idiots who will take meetings with anybody if you promise them, ooh, we've got really good, like wouldn't you at least want to think, well, what kind of good stuff do you got? What, like if you want to have a face-to-face meeting with us, what can we at least get some sense of what you know about and how you know about this and all kind of stuff? And how did that meeting go once it became very clear this woman was apparently like, I'll tell you about the scandal of Hillary Clinton in a second, but first let's talk about the adoption law. Yeah. How long does it take before you get up and say thank you or sorry? I don't know. It is not a flattering portrait of the highest levels of the Trump campaign. And so I suppose we should salute Donald Trump Jr. for admitting when he looks like he got snookered and suckered into taking a meeting with somebody who had nothing useful to tell them. On the other hand, it isn't exactly reassuring that the Trump campaign back in 2016 was willing to listen to just about anybody. With apparently seemingly sketchy ones. Now, some people are saying, well, look, if you knew this woman was Russian or potentially connected to the Kremlin, shouldn't you have been more wary or something? Look, Donald Trump Jr. Should have referred this probably to the campaign council and just left it at that. All things considered, I think this is probably the most minor misdoing or contact with a foreigner possible. Having said that, it doesn't say a great deal about their judgment that they decided that Donald Trump Jr., not knowing what this woman had, said, Paul, my brother-in-law, come on, you got to come in, Jared. This is really good stuff, I swear.
This is still going to result in a 12-member CNN panel with Wolf Blitzer telling us to stand by because the fact that they thought they were going to get dirt means that they were totally ready for collusion if the opportunity presented itself, right?
Greg, I could be on that 12-person panel, so let's not speak so hastily about the lack of value of that. But yes, I will be there rolling my eyes off camera.
Oh, fantastic. Jim, great start to the week. Talk to you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Greg.
Jim Garrity of National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Thanks for being with us today. And don't forget to visit our friends at the Dollar Shave Club. Get that $15 in value for only $5. DollarShaveClub.com/Martini. And join us again on Tuesday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shapes.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
It happens every summer. Stargazers delight in the opportunity to view constellations that can't be seen in winter, while car lovers delight in the opportunity to own one of our stars. At the Mercedes-Benz Summer Event, you can get the Mercedes-Benz of your dreams for less than you thought possible, like the supremely intelligent E-Class sedan or the awe-inspiring GLC. Don't miss this once-in-a-summertime opportunity. Hurry in to our summer event. Visit MBUSA.com to learn more. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing.